What is the most unforgivable thing your child's daycare has done? It was a mundane Monday afternoon pickup, the kind where you're mentally rehearsing dinner plans when I pulled up and saw 5 squad cars parked diagonally across the front lawn of my daughter's daycare. My stomach instantly dropped to the floor. I didn't even park correctly. I just abandoned the car and sprinted toward the entrance. A uniformed officer intercepted me at the door. I tried to push past, asking where my daughter was, but he was firm. He escorted me down the hall to the staff break room, where a group of other parents was already gathered. I asked him, my voice shaking, what the hell was going on. He wouldn't give me details, just a grim, I can't discuss the specifics right now, ma'am, but I am very sorry. When I walked into the break room, the air was so thick you could choke on it. Every parent there had the same look of wide-eyed terror. At the front of the room stood 4 officers and Laura, the daycare owner. Laura was usually the picture of composure, a sweet, older southern woman who ran a tight ship. Today, she looked like she had aged 20 years in an hour. She waited for the last few parents to be ushered in. Then, shaking visibly, she stood up and dropped the bomb. Police had discovered that someone had been taking inappropriate photographs of our children during nap time. The room exploded. It was instant chaos. Some mothers broke down sobbing immediately, others jumped up, screaming questions at Laura. One dad lost it completely. He lunged toward the front, shouting threats, and had to be physically restrained by 2 officers to keep him from doing something that would land him in jail. It took several minutes for the police to de-escalate the room enough for anyone to speak. They told us an active investigation was underway, and that Child Protective Services, CPS, and detectives would be in touch within a few days. Then, they sent us home with strict instructions not to interfere or try to contact the staff ourselves. Driving home, I felt physically ill. The only lifeline I had was my daughter. She was oblivious. When I told her she got to skip school the next day to hang out with mommy, she actually cheered. We baked chocolate chip cookies and sang karaoke in the living room until her bedtime. But every time she smiled, I felt like I was going to throw up. I couldn't get the thought of those photos out of my head. A few days later, the call came. We were summoned back to the daycare. As soon as I arrived, the dynamic shifted. The police separated me and 5 other parents from the larger group. They took us into separate classrooms. That's when I knew it was bad. The detective sitting across from me didn't sugarcoat it. They had discovered something even darker during the forensic audit. The photos weren't just for personal use. They were being sold on the dark web. I gagged. I had to put my head between my knees to keep from passing out. But before I could process the horror, the detective delivered the second blow. He explained that the reason the 6 of us had been separated was that our children, specifically, were the primary victims. I felt my soul leave my body. I looked around the room as I left the interview, making eye contact with the other 5 parents in the hallway. That's when the pattern clicked. We had something in common. We were the parents of the sensory room kids. All of our children had special needs, autism, sensory processing disorders, or developmental delays. During recess, when the noise of the main playground got too overwhelming, our kids played in a dedicated quiet room to avoid overstimulation. It was supposed to be their safe space, and strictly limited staff had access to that room. I mentioned this connection to the detective. He nodded grimly and assured me they had already put the pieces together. Hours later, the officers gathered our small group in the staff room again. But this time, Laura wasn't there. A detective stood at the front and announced they had the suspect in custody. When he said the name, my world collapsed. It was Ben, Laura's teenage nephew. Ben wasn't just some random employee. He was the cool older kid who helped out after school. He had babysat my daughter at my own house. He was the one who brought in homemade brownies for the kids on Fridays. My daughter adored him. I never saw Laura or Ben again. To her credit, Laura didn't try to defend him. She publicly disowned him and cooperated fully with the prosecution. She closed the daycare permanently before the week was out. She sold everything, the building, the equipment, her personal assets, and put every cent into a settlement fund to compensate the families her nephew had destroyed. It didn't fix what happened, but it was the only apology she had left to give.